Hey guys, welcome to the Go to Aesthetics Coach podcast. So, what I'm going to start doing is every Monday, I'm going to be releasing a new episode. And I want this to be highly value driven education. And what I'm going to be doing is, every single day I am implementing, I'm learning. I'm in my MBA. I work with multiple business coaches. I have my clients. I'm out there and trying what works, what doesn't work. And I have lots of best practices to share. So I'm going to start making notes every single week of what I'm doing just in real life. And I want to start sharing this feedback with you so that you can also learn what's working and just start implementing it yourselves in your business. So I hope that you find this useful and we can jump right into it. So today I'm going to be focusing mostly on sales. Now, the reason for that is sales is the way that we make money, right? Sales is a highly converted skill, right? Like it's how we convert money. It's how we create, how we print money. So it's a very, very good skill to learn. And not everyone has spent a lot of time learning the art of sales, right? Like sales is everywhere and it's probably in a lot of the different jobs that you've worked in, but it doesn't mean you actually understand the art of it and the psychology behind it. Okay, so I'm just going to go through what I got for you this week. So, importance of learning certain skills. Sales is one of those ones that is actually going to move the needle in your business. A lot of people, especially as entrepreneurs, we're wearing a lot of hats here and it's easy to get distracted and it's easy to start focusing on all of the other things except for actually what's money producing activities, like what's actually translating to sales. We can easily lose touch of that. So I want to bring the focus back to doing sales and doing the things that are going to actually make you money, not getting stuck in the weeds, right? So how do we do that? Okay. Expanding our organic reach on Instagram. We really need to invest in building our brand. And you should be actively reaching out to at least 5 people, 5, 10, ideally, minimal, right? Every single day on Instagram organically. This is you just sending a cold message. Don't make it salesy, right? Make it personable, make it you, make it real. Like talk to them like a human. Reach out to people with curiosity. And you should also, with these 5 to 10 people, not only be direct messaging them. I want you to add them. So this you're adding a new follow, you're liking 3 pieces of their content, and you're commenting on one of those 3 pieces of content with a genuine comment, not just a heart or, something cheesy and generic. Like if you have to, if you're really pressed for time, for sure, right? It's better than nothing. But when you have a genuine comment, it just goes a lot further. So that's one. I want you to focus on strategic partner. What does that mean in terms of the aesthetic space? Strategic partnerships are when we are going to our community and forming relationships with people where it's a mutual beneficial. Okay. So for example, this is something that I really focus on when I'm working with a startup launching a clinic because it doesn't cost that much money because we typically, when we're launching a new clinic, we don't have that much money to work with, but it can yield a lot of revenue quickly. So for example, you're reaching out to businesses in the community, like a physiotherapist, like a personal trainer. My favorite is a hairstylist, someone who's literally got your ideal client in their chair multiple hours a day. And if your stylist is someone that you talk a lot with. They're like your therapist sometimes. Like you just talk about everything with your stylist. So, if you're treating your style like a stylist, you create a relationship with them, you give them a free treatment, you bring them a coffee, maybe, you form a relationship with them and they like what you're doing for their skin, they are going to talk about it with every single person that's going into their chair. This is literally like a free sales force. This is how you expand quickly. You need to form those strategic partnerships. Also, another thing that I see is as the founder, of course you're selling. Your business is your baby and you have blood, sweat, and tears in this business. I know. Okay. I know what it's like. And you're going to do whatever it takes every single day. Every single day. You know what's on the line. You know your goals. You know, what you've put in to get here, but your team doesn't. A lot of people don't have good communication with the team. They might have some kind of meetings with them, but they aren't conveying the messaging strongly enough to the team of where you're at, where you want to be, why you want to be there. What's the story behind it all? Put your passion and yourself into it so that they know, then they feel it. This isn't just a job. They're part of the mission with you. And they understand like what the goals are in the next month, in the next 6 months, in the next year, 5, 10 years. They know. If they don't know, you just don't know what you don't know, right? And then they're not selling the same way for you, if at all. So I see a lot with clients I work with. And one of the bottlenecks that we dive into is like, what's the communication like with the team? Does the team actually understand like what's on the line here? Like, do they actually understand like what we're working towards? A lot of them don't. So that's one, is communication with the team. And two is, are your team members like sales ninjas? Because they should all understand sales. And usually they do not. And that's fine. Like, it makes sense. Not everyone has a sales background, right? They might have went to laser school and become an esthetician because they're passionate about skin health, but they don't understand sales like in depth. So we need to train and teach them on this, because they are the people that are going to bring you in the money, and they are going to take you to that next level. This is a huge bottleneck for so many clinics, is that their team is not selling for them because we didn't show or tell them how to. We want your team knowing how to sell without being salesy. Like, at the moment someone walks in the door, it's the start of the sales experience. It's an experience. It's not a transaction. From the moment they meet with them, the smile on their face, how they're greeted, are they offered a coffee? Do they take their jacket? Do they go through an in-depth consult? Like, is it thorough? Are they talking about upselling every step of the way? What clients don't know, they don't know. It's our job to sell for them and to offer them what we know through our expertise in education, how to get them the results that they're looking for. We need to sell packages. We do not want to sell one-off treatments. We do this through a strategic sales process where people actually understand sales and know how to sell without it feeling like sales. So we need to get everyone on board with that and trained to be sales ninjas. And then the next step to this is actually understanding how to manage leads and ads. So a lot of clinics have played around with ads, and a lot of people don't understand them. And they have worked with agencies or hired on contractors or whatever. And there's been a lot of bad experiences, right? Ads are such a unique skill to learn that a lot of people say they can do it and they can't. And especially, they need to understand the aesthetic market and industry to do successful ads in this industry, because every industry is different. You need to understand what you're talking about to convey the messages properly to have successful ads. So it doesn't really make sense to hire Joe Schmo off the street, not off the street, but like whatever you found off Google, who's like an SEO and ads guy, but he's never worked with an aesthetic clinic or in aesthetics and just doesn't understand it. Because the chances are, when he's creating the copywriting, the graphics, and giving you creative direction on your ad strategy, he doesn't actually even understand who your ideal client is and how they think and what they're looking for and how everything works together, the skincare, the devices on the clinic floor. Like, you got to understand that. So my advice to you with ads is to make sure you get someone who understands this industry, who has taken the time to understand you and your unique goals and your metrics, and who actually knows how to do ads. Okay. That's another way. These are the things that are going to move the needle. Okay. Number two, what's your goal? So 9 out of 10 people say a number they're subconsciously comfortable with. Okay. Yeah. So there's this thing that keeps coming up with business coaches that I work with. And it's interesting because it's something that continues to come up. And I actually even tested on myself, and I was like, damn, it's pretty right. So when we think of our goals, like, how much money do we want to make? I want you to just do this for yourself. Like, in your mind right now, like, what's your goal? What's your goal in the next year of how much you want to make? And write down that number. Okay. 9 out of 10 times, people will put a number that is something that they have obtained before. And this is something that's subconscious in our brain. Or you can say, like, what's your monthly target, whatever, monthly or annually. But if you add it up for the annual amount, 9 out of 10 times that amount is going to be something that you've done in the past. It will not be something that's insanely obscure and out of this world, because our brain, our subconscious, plays tricks, and it always wants to keep ourselves safe. The people who are really successful are like crazy. They're insane, right? Like, they think outside the box. They think there's no, like, they do not have limits. They're limitless. They're not scared of going for things, for looking stupid, for what people think of them. They just have a goal and they go for it no matter what. And This is like the mindset that we need to get ourselves in. When you think about all the very successful people in the world, Tesla, Amazon, all those like Google, these people they did not shut themselves in. They did not think of what was realistic. They just shot for the moon and they went for it and they didn't think twice about it. And they took fast action on things. So I want you to look at that number. And I'm just curious, you don't have to obviously just for yourself, think is that a number that's safe and that's something that I've accomplished before? Or is this something that's 10 times more? If you've put down a number that is 10 times what you've made in the past, this is a good sign. This is you're in a good mindset. Okay. If you put something that you've done that before, we're not thinking big enough, you can make it happen. Your biggest limit is always going to be you. So I teach a lot of mindset stuff, but I'm not going to get totally into that now because I got my sales strategies for you here. But what I've learned in business is the most important thing is your mindset. It's more important than strategies. It's more important than anything that you will ever learn, because what gets you to where you want to be is going to be the mindset that you can actually make it happen. And most people don't actually believe in themselves that they can do it. And there's a lot of subconscious work. It's just a lot of psychological, somatic work that needs to be done. We all have it. We all have things that subconsciously have built blocks throughout childhood and lives and all of that. And it's a whole other thing. I'll do a podcast episode on that. But that is most of the time what is holding people back from actually achieving what they're actually possible, what their actual potential is. And we all do it. And a lot of people don't even know they're doing it. Okay, next. So now we're going to get really into the sales strategies. So I want to show you and this is something actually talking about training your team, because I think this is so important. This is something that you can share with them. Okay. It's the basics. We're going to go to basics of sales. Okay. So if you're talking to someone, the first thing you're obviously going to do is an introduction. Okay. Who are you? I want you to be personal. I want you to invite them in with a smile, not just a smile, but with your eyes, with your tone, with your tonality, warm. And we're always about human connection, okay? And passion. Okay. Then we're going to move into question-based selling. Okay. So we're not just spewing out sales messages. This is the number one novice thing that you can do. Any beginner does this in sales, and that's okay because it's learning process. But if you catch yourself doing this, it just means we just need to focus on the actual process, which we're going to go over now. We don't just want to spew out sales messaging. We want to ask questions. There's the 80-20 rule. You're talking 20% of the time. You want them talking 80% of the time. Everything that they're telling you is data, it's intel, and it's what's going to help you close the sale later on. Okay. So we're keeping track and we're remembering all the things that they're saying as we start asking questions. This is how you get the emotional connection with someone. And that is what the whole sales process is about. You need to make sure that you guys are on the same page about what their actual need is in this conversation. What is their actual need? Because you're the solution, or what you're selling is the solution. But we need to ensure before moving forward to a close, we don't want to start the close until we are 100% sure that we're both on the same page of what their need is. Okay. And you get that through asking different questions. So question-based selling, I'm going to put Q. Okay. And okay. Through these questions, I want you to get to a place where you're going to get them to communicate what their bottleneck is. What is the challenge that they're having? What is the big problem here? Why can they not get to where they want to be? We need to get them to talk about that. Okay. So I'm going to say identify bottleneck. Now, it's very important that they are the ones who are communicating this, okay? Because a lot of times what I see in sales is that the salesperson is telling them what their problem is or what they need. But that's not going to be, that's not convicting for them at all. At the end, they're not going to close because they don't actually believe this. Doesn't matter if you do. Of course you do. You want to make the sale. They need to actually understand this. And we're going to get them to that place through asking the right questions and taking them along that journey so that they are actually understanding this themselves. So you're really selling is really like coaching someone. We're coaching them through their problem to help them find the answer. Okay. Now, once you get them to a place where they're yeah, for example, want to hear a lot. I'm a founder of a med spa, and I've been consistently kind of hitting 10K months, but my goal is to reach in the next 6 months consistent 25K plus months. You talk to them through this, you ask questions about their business, what's going on, what's worked, what hasn't worked. get them to a point where she's like, oh yeah, you know what? The reason that I'm not hitting these 25K months because I'm wearing too many hats. I'm being spread too thin in my business, and I need to either get some systems in my foundation to help alleviate some hours that I'm spending in admin, or I need to hire on an esthetician to help take some of the treatments, or like whatever it may be. It depends what you're selling. Like, it depends what you're selling. I'm just using this as an example for something that I do and I help clinics with. So often the founder is big bottleneck. They'd be spread too thin and they can't run a business properly. And we really essentially what most people want is to actually get out of the tech chair into the CEO chair. And then they can expand and do all these things. They can't do that if they're working every single day, like 10 to 12-hour days, doing all the treatments themselves. That's the bottleneck. How do we alleviate that? There's a lot of different solutions that I can help with that. So we go to the solution, but we want them to identify it. So yeah, they get to a point where they're like, yeah, you know what? It's me. I'm the problem and I need to get some help. I need to get more hours where I can actually step out and focus on the actual entirety of my business and not just be in the tech chair. How can I do that? Well, I'm going to tell you how. That's going to get you to a point when I start telling her about our solution, which is my coaching services and my AI integration systems. There's going to be objection handling. So people will always typically, for the most part, have objections. Like they're unless they've been like following your content and they've built trust with you and they've been following you for a while, like they might already be sold in before the sales conversation, but that's rare. So when it comes to the objection handling piece, you've done your homework when you got them to identify themselves what the bottleneck was. When you're doing the objection handling, which is over here, they're throwing things at you. Like the biggest ones are going to be money, value, probably time. Okay. These are some of the top objections: money, value, time. They can't afford it. They don't really believe that what you're selling them is going to solve their problem. Like there's not enough value there. They don't have the time to do it, or it's not the right time. So when they start throwing these objections, we got to loop back to when they talked about identifying their bottleneck. You keep looping back here because you bring up, well, earlier, you mentioned that you were the biggest bottleneck in your business and that you were wearing all the hats and that you didn't have enough time to actually focus on building the business. You're just too far in the business. And, you kind of go like that. Now, what most sales reps will do, salespeople, they go straight from the intro and they skip question-based selling. They skip getting them to communicate their bottleneck and they go right to the solution. So they introduce themselves and they say, this is what I've got to offer you. That's why it doesn't really, that's salespeople that it doesn't really work. They don't have a good close rate. So we need to go through this process. Now I want to take a step deeper here. So it's intro, question-based selling, get them to identify their bottleneck. Then you come in with your solution, what you're selling. Then you go to objection handling. And eventually that's going to come to the close. Okay. When you get to the objection handling piece and you start going through that, it's, whatever they're giving you, money, time, value, you loop back to what they were talking about when they were saying, yeah, this is my problem. This is why we want to go through, and you're going to have to go through a few objections with them. Now, in terms of identifying bottlenecks, these are some of the things that we want them to talk about. So when you're doing question-based selling, you set them up. So it's like, what are their current challenges, right? What's causing their challenges? And you might have to coach them through this. Like, what is really causing the challenge? Sometimes they don't actually know. Sometimes they think they know. And then it's like, they need a second perspective, or they need someone who has a certain set of expertise to be like, well, what about this? But, and uncover those things. What are their future goals, right? What's preventing them from purchasing? Is it money, trust, value? And then you want to close that gap. They have to admit to you that they have a problem or they're not going to buy it. All right. So next is we want to create awareness of the issue together. So that's where we want to get more technical now. We have probing questions, provoking questions, we're provoking them. And where do they really want to be? What's the whole point? Why did they get on this call with you? Like what are their goals? Where do they want to go? All right, filling the gap, guys. So where they are, right? This is where they are. And we want to get them to where, right? That's the whole goal. How do we do that? Well, there's a gap here, right? We need to figure out the gap and how we mend the gap. So I'm going to give you an example. And again, this is an example that would make sense for my day to day and what you can relate it to your industry or your particular situation. But okay, the med spa I typically work with, like, let's just say they're more beginner and they are stuck at 5 to 10K months. Okay. Yeah, they're working, 8 to 10+ hours a day. Too long, too much. That's not why they got into this business. And they're wearing all the hats. They're trying to be the do all be all. That never works. Only for a short period of time when you're just starting out, but you'll crash and burn quickly and it'll limit you from scaling. Now, where do they want to be, right? Like the example earlier, let's stick with that 25K plus months consistently. They want to work like 4 to 6 hours a day. They want to work 4 to 6 hours a day and they want to work, like whatever, 4 days a week. That's where they really want to be. That's why they became a CEO. They want to go from the tech chair to the CEO chair. They don't want to be doing treatments forever. They're doing it now because maybe they had to for a bit, but chances are they still don't have to be doing this as much as they are. Okay, where they are and where they want to be. Now, an example in more specific to a med spa owner, right? So where they are, one of your patients, they've had acne for years, they lack confidence. My rating, guys. They have this feeling that they need to like wear makeup every day just to go out with the lack of confidence. They're making themselves smaller. They're not playing as the leader that they are. They don't raise their hand. They're not speaking up as much as in work or in their social circles, like dating, in their relationships. They stay small. Now, where they want to be is they want clear, healthy skin. They want to feel confident in every way in and out. They want to be a leader. They don't want to be scared to like step up and go into the version of themselves that they can and are meant to be. They want to evolve to their full potential. They don't want to feel like they have to slather on makeup every day. That's where they want to go. And then when this is like a marketing tip, that's what we actually talk about in our marketing, not like microneedling treatment, $300. Like, okay, like no one really cares. Like, what is the actual feeling and transformation? That's what you talk about in your messaging. That's going to emotionally resonate with people. That's what gets people to buy. But that's a marketing lesson. So, all right. So, probing and provoking and talking about what their goal is. So, we want to probe for challenges that they need to identify. You need to draw this up. They need to draw it out themselves. Like, you need to help with draw it out. Provoke for the root cause and emotions. How does it make them feel? Talking about feelings, okay? It's emotional. And then what is their desired state? What are their goals? This is the process. Now we'll go deeper into it. So we'll start with probing. Probing questions. So question-based selling, right? Probing questions. So what are what are the issues that you are facing with X? Right? This is what you will ask them. What results or outcomes are you getting with your current process? Or what is your current process? Like, what is your consultation process? What is the process once the client walks through the door? Now we want to provoke. So it's how does this X affect your day to day, right? What impact does X, whatever the issue is, have on your income, your health, your relationships? This is the emotional piece. When did X begin? When did this start happening? How long have you been dealing with this for? Why has it not changed? Why do you think it's even happening? Get them to start talking about this stuff. Then you want to start talking about like, okay, we want to hear them talk about and we want to feel the emotions on like, where do they want to be? So I like the question, like, if you could wave a magic wand in the next 12 months, if anything was possible, like, where would you be? Like, say anything was possible, no limits a year from now. What does that look like? Tell me about that. Okay. Amazing. Well, how does that make you feel? Like, what will change for you? Like emotionally and physically, like if all this happened, like what things, how is that going to affect your life? Get them to talk about that and feel the emotions. It becomes like more visceral, right? Like it's like they are feeling the excitement of like the possibility of like this actually changing their life. That's what gets people to buy. Yeah. And just talking about like what are your goals in the next 6 to 12 months? What are your plans for anything to change? Like I always like to say that like there's so many risks. People are scared of money, risk, time, all this. There's always a risk in anything we do in life, right? But the biggest risk is staying exactly where you are. Like I love that line because it's so true. If you are not constantly growing and evolving, you're dying. Your job as a salesperson is to identify the barriers that are preventing this person from purchasing. So you need to know what it is before the person you're talking to brings it up to you, because that's called preempting objections. So, like, what we don't want is when we get through this whole process, we go through intro, question based selling, getting them to identify their bottlenecks. We talk about what the solution could look like. Then we get to objection handling. If by the time we get to objection handling, we haven't preempted any of these objections, they're going to have a whole slew of things for you. And it's going to be a lot harder to close them. But if you already brought these up in the question based selling throughout this process, it's like, we already talked about that. Yeah, we know this, right? But called preempting. Your goal is that you're preempting like 99% of these things that can pop up at the end before we get to the objection handling piece. For basically like just closing all of those windows, right? Like close all the windows of what they could bring up as an objection, so that when we get there, they're already closed. And it's more just like a conversation. Like, okay, we talked about it all. Like, do you really want this, or like, what's going to change? Right? It's just like being real. It's like, if we don't make any changes, like nothing changes. So, and again, like relating this to like, as a med spa owner, like we're talking about people's skin health, and that goes into so many different things like we were talking about, like how it affects their life in so many different ways, right? All right. Some objections that come up a lot, of course, is like, I can't afford it. I don't know if I need it. So when it's like, I can afford it, obviously that's a money thing. When it's something like, I don't know if I need it, that has to do with the process. And if it's something like, I want it, but not right now, it means it's just not a priority to them. If they are like, no, I can't really move forward yet. Like, I got to talk to my spouse, my boyfriend or something, girlfriend, whatever. This is a support issue. And if they're like, I just don't feel like I get it. Like, it's just not clicking like this. I'm not seeing this as a solution, or I'm just not seeing this as something that I need to do. Like, then it's a reassurance issue. So yeah. So how I've worked with clinics and I've seen it work, like from people who are just starting off as a brand new clinic to people who are bringing in $1 million plus per month, there's like different phases and developments that happen in your sales. Okay. So you start off doing the sales, then you hire a team. You want to train your team on how to sell. Then as you're bringing in a certain income bracket, revenue bracket, we start building out your sales department. So that's where you're going to have someone who, or AI bots, there's different things you can do to start booking the appointments for you, the calls, right? The consultations, let's say. So you can have an AI bot do that. You can have a human do that. This is called like the setter. This is like the person who should be, or the system that should be pre-qualifying your leads. Okay. And then you have your salesperson who has a pre-qualified lead coming in to go through this process and for it to be a smooth sale. All right. So part of that, like just tips, when you have someone who's booking consults, or you have a system set up that's booking consults, in the wording, in the copywriting, like whatever it is, you want to use certain paraphrasing words to help pre-qualify and set it up for success. So we don't want to necessarily talk about money in the beginning, but we obviously want them to know that this costs money and that this is an elevated experience. Like, so they expect that it's going to cost a certain amount of money, like without having to talk about it. So it's about the lingo, the language that you're using. So words like premium, luxury, exclusive, or you can just talk about like, with all of our years of expertise, like we've come up with this protocol that's had X and X results and blah, blah, blah. It's been proven to clear acne in 90 days, blah, 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 blah. Because then it's building it up to know like, okay, this is going to cost money, but like, I'm interested. That's pre-qualifying. Okay. Now, yeah, last little bit of notes here I had for you. So we talked a little bit about the different kinds of objections that can come up. And I just want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into those with you, because they are 100% going to come up, and I want you to know how to handle them. So one was like the money. So the money we just talked about, right? Like pre-qualifying and like setting up the expectation, like that this is a luxury elevated service, and like obviously it's going to cost money, but like we'll get into it, and we want to go through this process before we're talking about the money and how much it costs, so that they're already bought in before we do that and they're ready to go first in the sale. The other one was process. So you can ask something like, the process example I gave here was, I don't know if I need it, right? So you could say, well, have you tried to fix the issue before? So like, have you tried to, I like acne as an example. We'll stick with that. I don't know if I need this series of 6 treatments, your protocol, your acne protocol. And you could just say, okay, well, have you tried to fix the issue before? No, like, yeah, but I mean, it's kind of worked. Nothing's really worked too much though. I just don't want to waste more money, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, well, like tell me more about that. Like what happened? Like dig into it. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then a good question to ask in this scenario is to be like, all right, so like just curious, like from a 1 to 10, like how important is this for you to clear up like your acne? Get them to to say like how important it is to them. That is a good indicator for you to know how to navigate the sale. Because if they're sitting anything below a 7, we have to go back. We got to go back to identifying bottleneck. We have to go back to them talking about like more questions as well. Like you might have to ask more questions and really like getting them to really realize like how much is this an issue for them? And if so, like let's talk about it. How do we fix it? A lot of people are scared and there's so many things that are stopping them. And like really, they actually really do care about clearing out acne, but there's just a bunch of clutter going on that we need to coach them through so that they can make empowered decisions for themselves. All right. So if they're a 7 or higher, that's an indicator to you that like they're serious. Like this is something like you've almost got them to the end. This is a good sign, right? There's just a couple you might need to loop back and do the objection handling a little more until they're just like, all right, like how much is it? Like I'm ready to do it. All right. Priority. So I want it. I'm interested, but like not right now. It's not good timing. It's just like a priority issue. Okay, so you could ask them like, why are you trying to figure out now why to clear your acne? Why now and not before? Like, why is it? Because you're uncovering like why is it a priority to you now? And then they're going to talk about like, well, you know what? Like, I'm just annoyed. Like, I've been struggling with this for so long. Like, I'm tired of waking up and not having clear skin. I'm not feeling confident, like at work. And like, like I don't want to do any presentations because I'm just like so embarrassed of my acne. And like, I'm just sick and tired of it. Like, I've been dealing with this for so many years. Well, okay, that's a lot of good intel for you, right? And then again, bring it back to like, well, okay, well, why is it a priority now? Like, why did you book this call or this consultation? Like, get it up. And the other one was, I have to talk to a spouse or someone. So this is like they want that support. So, it's always good to ask, like, is there anyone else that would need to be involved in this decision? Like, say they're deciding on an expensive package. I say it's like a $4,000 package. And they're like, yeah, like I'm interested, but like I would talk to my spouse and be like, okay, yeah, like, like, do they know you're on this call today? Like, are they supportive of it? What do they think? Like, do they know how important this is to you? What do you think that they would say? Is there anything else that I can do to help you be prepared for that conversation? Or like, is this a decision that you can make on your own and you more so just need to tell your spouse? Or does your spouse like need to be part of the decision? Like, just talk about it. They don't feel like you understand like what they're actually looking for. And that means like they need some more reassurance. So if that's a situation, question would be like, so from my, like you could say, so from my understanding, you're looking to clear your acne to help you get more confident at work. Is that correct? Does that sound right? And then they're gonna be like, yeah or no, like, and then it's gonna help you. It's gonna actually uncover their own reassurance so that you don't have to give them reassurance, but they have it within themselves. Cause like we're really just getting them to relay the issue that they've already talked about previously, but they just need more reassurance on it. They need to like say it more and understand it more themselves and feel more confident, like with like why they actually went on this call. Like, so let's bring it back. Like, what was the whole reason you booked this call? Make sure you have. But yeah, and another thing you want to check here is you want to make sure that you have the right pain point because sometimes there can be misalignment. Like through this whole process, you thought you understood what the main issue was here, or even what they thought the main issue was here. But it sometimes it's deeper than that, and sometimes that's actually not we uncover and it's actually something else. So you want to make sure that you guys are aligned on like what is the real issue here. Yeah. And then the thing is like if we don't do this process, they're going to slam you with so many objections in the end and it's not going to be a sale. So if we understand this process and we ask the right questions and we set it up correctly, it's once you understand it's so easy to do sales, guys. It's just a psychology breakdown of how the mind works and how we navigate a conversation and communication so that we are actually not doing the selling, they are selling themselves. That's the whole goal and idea. All right. I hope you found this useful. I'm going to make a resource for you off all these notes and attach it to the show notes so that you can just go in and download that and you have them all right here. And yeah, every Monday I'm going to be releasing some new topics where we can dive deep. Again, feel free to use this as a resource to start training your team. It can be little homework for them. If like have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm on Instagram at allora.agency. So ALLORA.agency. I love hearing from you guys. And what I do is I help aesthetic leaders, med spa owners, and I specialize in AI. So I'm almost done my MBA, majoring in AI leadership, and I've worked with the best AI business mentors. And they are the best in the biz for AI. So that combined with an MBA, I've learned some incredible strategies on how to align and strengthen your sales, marketing, and operations department that is strengthened by modernized systems utilizing AI. So the way we can do business now is so much different than it was even a year ago. And we can save so much time, so much hours that like doing these things that we do not need to do anymore. Having AI bots do admin work, setting up for lead generation, marketing, everything. And it's essentially just helps make your lives easier and helps bring in more money. I also do coaching consulting just on how to scale practices, how to identify your bottlenecks, obviously on how to train sales. I used to have a marketing agency, so I understand that very well. I specialize in aesthetic ads. So if you need help on any of this, let me know. I do free audit calls. We can jump on a call and just have a conversation. Everyone's different. So I don't have like a one plan for all. It really just depends on where you're at, what you're needing. I only work with people that I know I can help. And there's a couple different ways to work with me. So I have like a one-on-one implementation where we work with 8 implementation calls. I will like be there with you live on a virtual implement systems into like build your backend in your sales and marketing operations. And you also get like support WhatsApp with me, like anything that's happening on a day to day, like you're not seeing conversions, your team's not seeing conversions with their leads. Like you can tell me what they're saying. I'll brainstorm back and forth with them. We'll fix that. We'll get some good sales messaging. Or if you're I don't know, anything. Your marketing's not converting to sales, or you feel like you want to revamp your packages, you want to have an event that actually brings in 25K, like it depends. Everyone has different things. We'll talk, figure out what bottlenecks are, see if it makes sense to work together. That's one way that we can work together. It's like more one-on-one. That's my Inner Circle membership. And then I have another membership where it's not the one-on-one. You get enrolled into the community where you can ask questions every Monday. I go in there and I answer questions. And again, this is also very in depth. You can have your team have access to this, like whatever challenges that they are coming up by the previous week. Put it in there. I'm going to help workshop and brainstorm different strategies to work through it. I usually can provide like resources on there. And we just work through it. I just help you scale. I help you push back anything that's preventing you from bringing more money in the clinic. And I have a course vault of over 30 different courses on sales and marketing and how to create, like, if you're into it, like an AI twin, like literally, if you go on my Instagram, 90% of my content is AI. People don't know. I know how to do the highest, most hyper realistic version of AI out there. I can teach you how to do that. Saves a lot of money on not having to do photo shoots and hiring a whole marketing agency and doing the hair and makeup and coordinating people and their time. And it's just like the way can do things now is just so different. And I'm so excited about it. So that's what I'm about. At the end of the day, my mission is to help as many people as possible. I want to help entrepreneurs literally just create and live in the business that actually lights them up. And one, that's the most important thing. There's people out there that make a lot of money that are miserable. So I don't believe in that. I believe in creating ease and freedom in your business while creating a lot of wealth. So those are the things that we work on. I've worked in aesthetic for many years in different capacities. I've worked selling medical devices in different companies, skincare in different companies, helping launch skincare brands, helping scale sales, aesthetics, sales teams and aesthetics. I had a marketing agency that now over the years, I'm now doing more consulting coaching, lots of different things. So I understand the industry and I've worked with a lot of different clinics and, I'm ready to just dive deep with you and like just figure it out. There's so much that we can do. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and have an amazing week. Cheers.